Hello and welcome everyone to a new Heroes of Might and Magic free video, where in this one, we're gonna be going over the spicy details that we know of for the Factory faction coming soon for Heroes of Might and Magic free Horn of the Abyss. This faction is a really cool wasteland cowboy kind of fiend faction, and it fits into the entire universe surprisingly well. I love the aesthetics of this faction, and I love the way that they're taking it so far. So let's get right into it. First off, we'll look over the units. So, the units for Factory are looking very nice. The tier 1 creature, the Halfling, is looking much more well dressed than their neutral counterpart. They're looking very royal. So we have a tier 1 creature that's gonna be a pretty solid shooter for the faction. Perhaps this is gonna be the early game power stack if the other early creatures are not gonna be cutting as such. And this would be a very solid power stack to have. They're gonna be basically, I would imagine, like gremlins for tower. You know, they're really abundant and they do a pretty good amount of damage, especially under Bless. That's about the role that I would expect the Halflings to fill, and when you upgrade them, they even look more wastelandish, and they are renamed to Grenadiers. Okay, so they're dealing with explosives, so they're more pushed towards the lines of the actual faction thematics, and I really like that. So for tier 2 unit, we have the Mechanic and the Engineer. The visual representation between the upstack and the non-upstack is like pretty minor, I would say. Their special ability is that they can actually repair the mechs of the faction. Now, currently, as far as the visuals go, I would assume that they have one mech already released, and that is the Juggernaut. And I mean the Dreadnought and the Juggernaut, the tier 7 creature of this faction. And there's probably going to be another thing that they can repair, and that's going to be the tier 4 creature, Automaton. This is not the final iteration of the tier 4 unit, there might be something different, but it's probably pretty likely to assume that there's going to be 2 units that they can repair. And that seems like a pretty interesting mechanic, so basically like a cure but on your unit. So even if you have them in pretty low amounts, they will probably end up being pretty useful for you. Nice utility. Then tier 3 unit is going to be a beast type creature. Now beast type creatures for the faction is actually like pretty common. For example, Castle has the griffins and I guess Rampart has like the unicorn, so this is their type of beast. And they're probably going to be like pretty tanky units. And as far as I can see, they're going to be like pretty, I mean Factory is going to be very range based. Because they have like multiple shooter units, all of which seem really potent and really good. So having some tanky guys in order to secure your shooters to actually shoot is going to be probably slotting in very nicely. Possibly like Dendroids are really slow and clunky, but you pair them with Grandels, they become really good and useful. That's probably a similar role that these guys will be taking as well. And honestly, they look like pretty cute. They're clearly gonna be a TX unit, so they're gonna be like pretty good at blocking things, and yeah, I do like them. Then tier 4 unit is MIA for now, and the tier 5 unit is the Sandworm. And these guys are flying, well they're burrowing, but they essentially are basically flying. And they, from the demo playthroughs, they seem like they are pretty speedy as well, so they can cover a big amount of distance in a short amount of time. Now, these guys, like, visually are terrifying! Oh my god. They have, Lovecraftian kind of style. Honestly, when I'm gonna be fighting these dudes and there's gonna be, like, plenty of them burrowing towards me, I'm gonna be, like, slightly panicked here. Because I really dislike these kind of centipede creatures, and honestly, I'm probably not gonna overly invest into them even in my playthroughs. Now, I play actually competitively, like high tier online, okay? And I don't care how uncompetitive I have to be to avoid these creatures, honestly. But I do feel like that's actually like a really good thing, that a unit put into this old game can actually, you know, make you feel like that. Now, the opposite of this feeling is the tier 6 creature of this faction, and that is the Gunslinger and the Bounty Hunter. Now, from a demo playthrough, currently the stats on this guy is bonkers. Wow, they're actually really, really good. What that means, I mean, They do a lot of damage. Their base damage is really good, and their attack skill is really good. So they're gonna be like one of the most competitive creatures for the entire game, basically. Now, of course, they're gonna be like pretty hard to stat because there's probably gonna be no creature banks for them, as you have for Cyclops, for example. But the damage that they do cannot be underestimated, and they have a very cool, unique ability. If you can actually retaliate with against a ranged attack with these guys. How cool is that? So in a range versus range matchup, these guys are gonna be having the edge, and that is honestly amazing. Yeah, I really like the concept of this creature. I really like their visuals and their thematics. We were missing like tier 6 shooters, and these guys are gonna be filling the void very nicely. Now, we also, a very unique thing about the factory is that they're going to be having two, not one, but two tier 7 units. So we're gonna be having different camps, okay? We have Team Quaddle, best unit by the way, and the Crimson Quaddle, also best unit by the way, and the Dreadnought, the poor man's tier 7 unit, okay? You only build these guys if you can't afford the Quaddle. Of course, you might be on the different team. Yeah, you might be on the wrong team. So, yeah. I'm not sure if it's gonna be a decision that you have to make between if you have to build like into one or the other, or you're going to be able to build both across the game. And if you can build both, or the build path is gonna be like very drastically different for both of them. For example, if you have to go like for almost every single unit to get the Quaddle, but the Juggernaut, you only have to get like a blacksmith or like a resource silo, then they might be very, very hard to invest to at the same time. So most usually, based on the map and your situation, you're gonna be having to, you know, probably go for one or the other. But honestly, the tier 7 units seem superb and a lot of fun. I really like that they're doing something unique every single time they release a new faction. Not something overly unique that would stand out from the rest of the game, but unique enough to actually feel a little bit special. I really love the Hodo crew for this, and they are amazing at giving this little tiny flavorings while also making it seem very in place, you know? Like the pirates having free upgrades, for example, was really cool, well implemented, and everybody loved it. I don't know a single person that didn't, and this is probably going to be received in a very, very similar way. So, yeah, those are the creatures. I feel like they are very thematically nice. The big outliers, of course, the Quaddle. Like, why the hell are they along with all these Wild West and beasts? But you know what? I'm certainly not complaining. Whatever lore there is for these gangsters to make friends with the Quaddles, I'm gonna be all down for. Maybe these Quaddles are even more gangster than the rest of the squad. Okay? So, very nice. Next thing that we can go over is the heroes. We don't know many specific heroes about from the factory faction quite yet. But you know, we do know how on the map they will be looking, and honestly, they look very cool. We have different models for the male and the female mercenary, and the male and female artificer. And I guess my favorite one is going to be the male artificer. He looks like an Einstein, a crazy madman, the technician. So if I'm gonna be controlling some juggernauts, I want it to be led by an artificer. Now, whether that's gonna be optimal or not, we'll have to see. But thematically, I feel like he's gonna be amazing. And also the female mercenary also looks very powerful, very intimidating, the way that I would expect a mercenary to be. Yeah, these heroes are very nice, and they're pretty distinct from the other ones. I think that it's pretty hard to get like such a hero to be distinct, but they're doing a very good job in making it so. So, along with the entire factory faction, we're gonna be having a new terrain, and terrain is one of these things that I actually love the most about this faction. This terrain, very orangey, ground looking thing, is actually very reminiscent for me of the Heroes 2 terrain for the Barbarians, and I used to love this orange terrain, and I love everything Heroes 2, so the fact that they're pulling more assets and bringing it over to Heroes 3 is something that I'm really, really loving. So I feel like they use this terrain really well. It fits the faction, it fits the game, and it's already in the game, by the way. If you're playing on the Hotel lobby, then some templates are able to generate this terrain along with some of the objects that it brings. And here are the objects that it brings, actually. First of all, we have the Derrick. It gives you 500 gold on the first week and 1000 gold in any other week. This is basically the windmill of the faction. Then we have a spicy one, the Warlock's Lab. Now this is a huge one. It is the kind of object that will let you transmit resources from one into another, only precious resources. So this will allow you to go for tier 7, upgraded creatures way easier, such as titans, black dragons. You need like an abundant amount of sulfurs or gems. A Warlock's Lab is gonna get you covered like no other building ever would. You're looking to research a Mage Guild 5, then the Warlock's Lab is also gonna get you covered across the board. It is such a powerful object, very impactful, but also the goal for it is gonna be huge, so you know, this is a very valuable object that you're bringing into the game. And apart from spawning in the wasteland terrain, it will actually spawn in snow terrain as well. So with this update, not only is, factory being brought in, but some of the new objects are being brought in, and they're spilling over into the rest of the game as well. And I feel like that's really, really cool. Snow is of course a native terrain of Tower, and Tower probably has something to do with the transmutations as well, right? So Warlock's Lab is a very tight fit over there as well. Very nice. Then we have the Prospector. This object yields 500 gold or 5 sulfur once a week. This is basically like the Mystical Gardens for Castle, which gives you 500 gold or 5 gems. But with sulfur instead, and it's a wasteland themed object instead, of course. Now, of course, you always get the thing that you don't need. You need gold, half sulfur. You need sulfur, half gold. You know how the dancing dudes go. Now, next object is the one that I'm actually most excited about, the Trailblazer. Reduces the movement penalty in for Wasteland by 50%. You know what this means? This means that you can actually have off-terrain army while suffering the terrain penalty, still be moving at a 75% pace. So you're actually saving moves by moving off-road. And wow! So you're basically making your own road. How amazing is that? It's so powerful. When it comes to chaining like far out off-road, usually that's like a really big investment that you have to make, that you have to set up like through multiples of turns. But Trailblazer is gonna get you sorted, and you're gonna be able to reach really far really easily using this objective. This is the stables of the factory, and it's bonkers strong when actually put to use effectively. And honestly, I'm very excited to use it. Being able to use less movement for the sake of actually walking around in Wasteland is something that I'm very excited about, and I honestly can't wait. And next up is we have the Grave. When you dig it up, you get 500 to 5,000 gold, or a random treasure or minor class artifact. It also gives you monster morale for the next battle that you take. Now, in this one, I mean, it's really hit or miss. You invest into it and you might be getting almost like nothing in return, or you could be getting like a pretty decent arty. You could even get boosts of speed here. So yeah, you're probably gonna be doing these on a side hero and getting some decent profits, Like the Stronghold terrain has like the corpses, that you walk over to the side hero steal, and sometimes you gain some nice outcomes. This is gonna be a very similar themed objective. So that rounds up the new objects coming with the Wasteland terrain. So guys, if you liked the video and the coverage of the new faction, then hit subscribe and hit like. Whenever we get new details about the faction, and when the faction is actually released, I'll cover pretty much anything that goes along with it. The campaign playthrough, whatever new things we actually have going for it. So stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye bye! Somebody come get her. She's dancing.